The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
Sean and Frank, this is what you've been waiting for. Talk Radio 680.
Take 38:22 before the hour of 9 o'clock. Sean and Frank, Maryland's wake-up call. Talk Radio 680 WCBM. Our next guest is a New York Times best-selling author of The Obama Nation. He's a senior staff reporter for WorldNet Daily. He also was involved in with the Swift Boat veterans and going after Senator Kerry and getting his record out there for all. He is Dr. Jerome Corsi, and he joins us. His new book is Where's the Birth Certificate? Good morning, Dr. Corsi.
Good morning. Great to be with you.
Always a pleasure. All right, so did you ever think you'd see the day that your book would actually garner more attention and be more controversial than the birth certificate itself?
Well, no. I didn't look at it that way, but I guess you've got a point.
It is. It seems to me they're paying much more attention to you and your book, with attempts to pull it off the shelves and squash it than they actually are covering the real news event here.
Certainly the mainstream media is much more focused on attacking me than investigating Obama. There's no question about it.
It's just amazing, and again,
is.
I think that when you read the book, and I've read it, and it's wonderful, and you put it all together, and in a very clearly evidenced and footnoted form. I think the thing for me has always been, to me, the birth certificate. The only interest I had in it, because I believe he was born here in the United States. That's just my opinion. I don't have any evidence on that, but it's always been about the fact that his father was a British subject, and therefore he is not a natural-born citizen. And I think that has largely been ignored by, Mr. Trump and everybody else out there right now. They're basically all just they wanted the birth certificate produced. When they got it, then they felt it was all going to go away, but nobody's talking about natural-born.
Well, that's right, and I make a major point of this in the book. I mean, if you recall, the first book's got 125 exhibits to it. All the evidence I used, and clearly the attack on John McCain, that was the initial birther attack, was the Democrats and the mainstream media for months saying John McCain was not a natural-born citizen because he was born in the Panama Canal. The resolution the Senate and House passed, Barack Obama co-sponsored it, said that John McCain was natural-born because he had two U.S. citizen parents when he was born. And he was, being born in the Panama Canal Zone when the parents were serving the military. His father was part of that sub base in the Panama Canal. Was not what the founding fathers meant to exclude in terms of natural-born citizen. But Barack Obama couldn't submit his own birth credentials to Congress because Barack Obama knew he didn't meet the criteria. He did not have two U.S. citizen parents. Barack Obama Sr. was a Kenyan, which means that Barack Obama Jr., the president, was a dual citizen at birth, citizen of the Commonwealth of Great Britain, because Kenya was at that time, 1961, part of the Commonwealth. And a dual citizen at birth is not a natural-born citizen. The last thing our founders wanted was for somebody with British citizenship ties to ascend to the presidency.
Yeah, because there was discussion at the time of during the convention of maybe creating a monarchy for the United States, and I think it was Justice Jay who basically delivered that to George Washington at the time.
That's right. There was a famous letter from John Jay to George Washington, basically worrying that there'd be a back door for the British monarchy to get a hold of the U.S. presidency if, in fact, it was not required that the president be a natural-born citizen. And here to have Barack Obama be a British citizen, and yet, at birth, and yet to, have him become president would be really ironic. And people say, well, it doesn't matter what Barack Obama intended or didn't intend, or whether he didn't or did not renew his Kenyan citizenship. The fact is he was a dual citizen at birth, and natural-born is not determined by decisions that you make. It's determined by the facts of your birth. A dual citizen at birth is not a natural-born citizen.
Right, and there's a difference between naturalized, native-born, 14th Amendment, and, of course, natural-born, which is in the Constitution itself.
The 14th Amendment does not redefine natural-born in Article 2, Section 1. It makes no reference to it. And the Supreme Court cases, the determinative case, which in a ruling set what the meaning of natural-born citizen was a minor v. Happersett, and it was an 1874 case. All the other discussions of natural-born citizen have been in dicta in the comments of judges that are not part of the rulings.
Now, we should also point out that it's just not President Obama that is experiencing this. You pointed out the left started with John McCain, and both of his parents were U.S. citizens. There's a big difference there. But Chester Arthur had an issue. Perhaps Bobby Jindal. I don't think he'll ever be able to be president unless, of course, they totally ignore that. And maybe even Marco Rubio has a problem.
That's correct. I think it's one of the reasons why the Republican Party does not want to go after Obama on this issue. Obama was given a pass, and Rubio's father was not naturalized until 1974, and neither of Bobby Jindal in Louisiana, his parents, were U.S. citizens when he was born. So neither Marco Rubio or Bobby Jindal are natural-born citizens, and neither are qualified to run for president as a consequence.
Jim, this is Frank Luber. It seems to me that the Supreme Court is almost trying to evade this whole issue. Is that the way you see it right now, and for what purpose?
Well, the Supreme Court is very reluctant to enter into political decisions that could, especially if it involved removing the president from the presidency. We just look at 2000 when the Supreme Court entered and decided the Florida recount, and George W. Bush was president as a consequence. The Democrats are still complaining that George W. Bush was selected, not elected. I think on page 234 of the book, on Exhibit 124, I cite a Congressional Research Service. You see the Research Service report there. I reprint the first page. They've concluded that there was no government organization that vetted or examined Obama qualifications under Article 2, Section 1. He slipped through the loophole. He was happy to do so. He knew he could not meet the criteria of natural-born citizen. It was strictly applied to him. But there's no institution of government. The Constitution says, Article 2, Section 1, president has to be a natural-born citizen. That does not mean citizen. It's a subset of citizen, more restrictive. You know, I'm not arguing that Barack Obama is not a citizen. I'm saying he's not a natural-born citizen. And this Congressional Research Service report suggests that no government agency or institution was given by the Constitution the responsibility or the authority to examine birth credentials of serious presidential candidates before they're put on the ballot. We need, at either the state or federal level, to create that kind of institution, because with the diversity we now have in the population, we're moving into circumstances where prominent politicians are going to have many different birth circumstances, and they may not all be natural-born citizens.
Jerome, this is strictly speculation and maybe rhetoric, but my own personal feeling has been all along that while this may be a valid argument as far as the birth certificate issue is concerned, that the fact of the matter is with the first black president of this country and the support that this person received, would almost be folly to go out and pursue it during his term in office, and that there might be a better likelihood toward, as we get closer to the next election.
Well, it's a possibility, but see, the issue is going to come up for Barack Obama again in 2012, whether he likes it or not, because, I'm maintaining the birth certificate that Barack Obama released is fraudulent, and if there's criminal fraud there, that's another whole issue. There may be consequences to pay for that. And
you have filed a criminal complaint?
There's an expert who is filing the complaint. I'm going to report on the complaint. The expert is the one who's qualified to file the criminal complaint with the FBI, and it's in process. It'll be filed today or tomorrow, and I'm going to try to find the time to get it written up at WorldNet Daily as quickly as possible.
Dr. Corsi, do you think Donald Trump was a stalking horse? His whole thing here was designed to try to get everyone to appear to flush Obama out, and then they were just waiting to launch this obvious forgery of a long-form birth certificate and to make it all go away?
Well, I certainly suspected that, and Donald Trump called me yesterday again, and I told him if Donald Trump does not want people to think that, including me, he needs to come out now and say that he wants the birth certificate released by the White House. The original document was not an electronic document. There were no electronic birth certificates in 1961. Let's get the original out of the vault in Hawaii and subject it to forensic testing.
Yeah, and again, the stuff that they have released, there's some kerning going on and some other, it's clearly a forgery. Let me ask you this. not just the birth certificate, but we've seen it now with the Social Security number issued out of Connecticut. The Selective Service registration numbers got issues. We have passport we have never seen, theses, all sorts of other things. That this is the most unvetted president in the history of the United States. Is he a Manchurian or manufactured candidate?
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, one of the major themes of Where's the Birth Certificate, my book, is really how little we know about Obama. And, the stories that he has told are largely fabricated. So, Barack Obama says Mommy and Daddy lived together in Hawaii after he was born until Daddy went off to Harvard in 1962. It just isn't that way. Ann Dunham packed up with the baby, his mother, packed up with Barack Obama Jr., the infant president, under 2 months old, and went to Seattle, where she began taking courses at the University of Washington in Seattle. She never returned until after Barack Obama Sr. left. It's clear that these two, his mother and father, never lived together a day as man and wife. And we now have even the Immigration and Naturalization Service file of Barack Obama Sr., the father, and it's clear that the Immigration and Naturalization Service consider that marriage a sham. Couldn't even find a marriage certificate.
Yeah, we can't find any paperwork for any of these people.
No, and Barack Obama, we don't have Barack Obama's passport records, travel records. We don't even know all the countries President Obama has been in.
Including perhaps Pakistan.
How many times?
Yeah.
We don't know. How many times did he go to Indonesia? Did he go to any other third world countries?
Well, we know he lived there for a while.
Right.
Well, Dr. Corsi, how can this happen in this day and age?
Well, because Barack Obama is using the privacy rules to suppress the release of his records. We don't have his school records. We don't know if he applied at Columbia or, at Occidental as a foreign student, if he got foreign student aid. We know virtually nothing from the documents about Barack Obama, and what he's told us about his life in Dreams from My Father is largely fabrication.
But shouldn't that all fly out the window when you're the president of the United States, you're the leader of the free world? There's a certain amount of privacy that you do give up, especially when it comes to vetting for office.
I would think so. I mean, it's almost inconceivable that we have this kind of mystery man, that we're now, more than 2 years into the presidency, and we're still asking fundamental questions about who his parents were, whether he was adopted in Indonesia, why he shows up in his mother's passport records as Obama Hussein, as Barack Obama Soebarka,
right,
with a Indonesian surname, why he went to school in Indonesia as Barry Satoro. If they legally changed his name, was he adopted? That might be a dual citizenship issue again.
Right. Now, again, it's a great book. Where's the Birth Certificate? The case that Barack Obama is not eligible to be president. Dr. Corsi, we run out of time, but thanks for spending some time with us here this morning.
My great honor and pleasure. Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, that's Jerome Corsi, Ph.D. Where's the Birth Certificate? And in it, he also dispels some rumors and myths about Obama being born in Kenya. So it's not just about questioning Obama. There's also, he's on the case of trying to authenticate some of the other issues as well that have been raised that are rumors. He blows them out of the water.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.